tying up the federal credit, the responsibility behind it, taxpayers, you and me, we're behind it, we're going to have to pay it, and yet they say we don't owe it. Not right now, but we're damn sure going to owe it later. And I'll tell you what, your children are going to be paying it. And we'll be paying it until we die. They just added $150 billion to the national debt. Where do you think they're going to get the money? From us, from taxes, sooner or later. Or unless they print it, devalue the dollar. They may think of that later, because they sure don't want to have any taxes. I always thought, and I'm not paid for this, so I'll tell you what I think. Doesn't worry me a bit. You know, I ain't on the payroll, cowboys. You know, they blame the Democrats for taxing and spending. And I admit, we did spend a lot and we taxed a lot. People wanted things, we got them for them. Now we have the Republicans who borrow and spend and borrow and borrow and borrow. And I think it takes a damn sight more courage and guts and judgment to tax what you're going to spend than it does to just go borrow it and say we're putting it off for your grandchildren. That's what they've done the last 8 years. That's what we're doing this year under that leadership. And if you think of any way to pay it off, let me know. Because they don't want to pay it off. They just want to add to that debt. If you think it's not a debt, you're not counting. And I'll tell you, it seems to me that the work of the 101st Congress is pretty clear. The problems have got to be dealt with. And Congress will do its part, but we need the input and the help and some leadership from the Bush administration. Working together, I think the administration and Congress can reduce the trade and budget deficits, can keep inflation from getting out of hand. We can deal creatively with third world debt problems and reach consensus on what to do about these S&Ls. As one member of Congress, I'm looking forward to the next 2 years because we've got an opportunity, just an opportunity, to build an economic framework for the next 20 years. And with a 15-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 21-year-old, I'm interested in that future. I want it to be a good one. I want them to have an opportunity. And I hate to see them saddled with $2.2 trillion, another $150 billion out of S&Ls, Lord knows what deficit from trade. As new chairman of the Judiciary Committee, I can tell you my committee agenda is pretty big. It's open-ended, growing every day. If you'll forgive a pun, it's all-encompassing. Over 400 bills have already been referred to my committee. Work's begun on matters as diverse as the Justice Department authorization, Equal Rights Amendment, post-employment ethics for government employees, product liability, election reform, insurance regulation. This doesn't cover everything, but it gives you some idea of what the Judiciary Committee is all about. The responsibilities, in short, of the Judiciary Committee are about as broad as our nation's system of laws. And just yesterday, my subcommittee on economics and commercial law began consideration of amending our antitrust law to permit joint production agreements in order to enhance the competitiveness of American industries. And this should not be viewed as an attack on existing antitrust statutes, but rather a logical extension of these laws to accommodate contemporary economic realities. We've had one hearing, we'll probably have some more on that very subject. As this Congress continues to unfold, we may need to revisit issues that occupied our attention in previous Congresses, such as immigration reform and drug control, so-called RICO statute, see how previous laws are operating, determine what changes are needed, if any. We need to maintain our oversight of civil rights enforcement machinery, see that our system of laws is serving all the people. Other matters, such as intellectual property rights, bankruptcy law revision, may also occupy our attention. This is a challenging and a busy agenda, but I look forward to a productive 101st Congress. Again, I want to thank you for inviting me to share a few thoughts about Jack Brooks, about the Judiciary Committee, the United States Congress, and how our work will affect your interest. It's a pleasure to be here. I look forward to working with you in the coming years. Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll take that.
chairman has agreed to take a couple of questions. Who'd like to ask the first one?
Just give your name, rank, and serial number. Don't let him to death. Go on, I don't care.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, since
Yes.
your best efforts have not yet produced the kinds of opportunities for American engineering and construction companies to compete in Japan for their public works projects, do you envision any continued legislative efforts to preclude them from doing the same in the United States?
If there's any way that I can, I've always been dedicated to being fair, equitable, understanding, tolerant, and compassionate toward our beloved friends in the East. I spent 2 years working on that project in 1943, 44, and 45. And I fear that we have not completed the task.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, what is your view of the current situation with the Speaker and the way that's being handled?
Oh, I think it's a disaster. I think that it is a terrible job. We're just shooting ourselves in the foot, in the head. And I think that there is no possible way that an objective judge would think that Jim Wright has violated the ethics rules of the House. Or, you know, when you have an exclusive right to get all the royalty you can from selling books, and you sell $7,000 worth of books and they say that's a crime, they're crazy. It's not against the rules. He could have made $700,000 selling books, would have still been perfectly legal under the rules. And when they say his wife got some gifts from Malachek, whatever that fellow's name was, that is a joke. If they say he has a direct interest in Congress, which he does not, he has no direct interest, and I've known him for years. He and his big old boys always driving the cars and opening the doors and helping around whenever Jim was around. They just loved him. Everybody's got friends like that that's in politics. Some of you may in private business. People just like to be associated, like to be around, don't want anything, don't have anything, don't want anything out of you. Just like to be around, have fun doing it. Well, that's his status. He doesn't have any direct interest. If they allege that just because he has some money that he has a direct interest in the government, everybody in Congress is going to be subject to trouble because all my constituents have got a direct interest. If that's the test, all my Social Security recipients, if you think they don't have a direct interest, you monkey with the Social Security laws. Direct interest in sales taxes, direct interest in Social Security, and you'll get covered up in letters, calls, messages. Why, of course, everybody that lives in this country has some interest in it. But direct interest means are you lobbying, or you have a PAC, you have this or that, have a direct interest in some legislation. And most people have a general interest in what goes on in the Congress, but not a direct interest of that type. So I think that will be, both of them should be thrown out. But in the meantime, this hatchet man we got from Chicago, you know, it's weird to me as a lawyer that the prosecuting attorney, which is what he is, investigator my foot, he's a prosecuting attorney. The prosecuting attorney makes the case to the jury, and the jury agrees, or the grand jury agrees to indictment. Then the prosecuting attorney puts on his other coat and says, now I'm counsel for the jury. And he works on the jury, same people. I think it's unbelievable. I think you'd be better off if you're a congressman in trouble, go before any federal judge in the world. Go to a JP, go anywhere. You'd be better off than letting a bunch of your colleagues do a hatchet job on you because they're afraid of the papers and the television. I think it's a disaster for Congress. If we don't win this fight, it's going to ruin Congress. That will suit Gingrich well. He wants to destroy Congress. Then he thinks they can rebuild it. Now, that's the way I look at it. I have never seen Congress at a lower level of backbiting, knifing each other, partisanship. Never in 37 years. And I've dealt with, 8 speakers? Joe Martin was Speaker when I came to Congress, Republican from Massachusetts. honest as could be, straight as a string, nice old boy, courteous, pleasant. His word was good. I liked him. I respected him. Never said one word against him. Charlie Halleck came up, not as speaker, but as the leader. Halleck was mean and devilsome, liked to drink and party, but Halleck was honest. He was a good partisan fighter. We got along with Charlie Halleck fine, liked him. There wasn't any feeling of acrimony. I remember sitting many times, well, most every night, with Sam Rayburn in the Board of Education, drinking a little coffee in the evening. We started drinking coffee about 5:30. I didn't take cream. And many a time, Charlie Halleck would come down there and visit, raise hell with me, raise hell with everybody, you know, just argue and talk and visit about our issues. But there was never any hard feeling. We didn't go out to the press and say, Halleck had a real load on last night. None of that business. Of course not. Of course not. Had nothing to do with his thought processes. And so I have never seen, I've seen all kinds of problems and tough ones, but nothing ever like this. Nothing like this. And it's destroying Congress. It may destroy it if they'll let it. But if they do this to Jim Wright, they've already started on Quello. They'll start. The FBI last year went and got a copy of the financial disclosure forms of every chairman in the Congress. Now, I don't know what they got it for. They didn't say they were going to investigate. They just got it because they like to read, or they just collecting numbers on paper. I don't know what their collection is. But you and I can understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to put the pressure on every chairman. And they just got a list. They'll go through the list. What they're mad at Jim Wright about on the program is his effectiveness and not his ethics. That's what they're going to be mad at all the Democrats about. If you elected anybody as Speaker, they would start finding fault with him because they're not for him. I don't mind them being against him, but I think that when they hide partisan attacks like this, it doesn't look good. It's not good for Congress. It's not healthy. It's not conducive to encouraging decent people to run for Congress. I feel sorry for people that have got a couple of years in Congress. If they think they're going to enjoy the next 20 years, they're crazy the way it's going now. The way it's going now, everybody that doesn't want to live in a sleeping bag and is a eunuch ought to just quit. You understand? And I have taken an oath not to do either of those things.
Join us at approximately 12:35 a.m. Eastern Time when we will re-air this address by Representative Jack Brooks at the annual conference of the American League of Lobbyists. Stay with us now for coverage of today's Pentagon News Briefing, coming up next.